The Bring a Trailer Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bring a Trailer Podcast. Alex Porter here, Director of Operations for the company. I am coming to you once again from our headquarters in San Francisco and joined in person this week. What a treat, Maurice, by Maurice Merrick of Horsepower Heritage. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this.
It's very rare we get people in person, and it's so much freaking better, man. So thanks for making the trip.
I'm telling you, I do as many in-person interviews as I possibly can. It completely changes the dynamic. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I should do a full intro before I'm already ready to dive in and talk to you about podcasting. But Horsepower Heritage is your website and podcast, which you're the creator and host of. And it follows your love of cars and motorcycles and the people and stories behind those machines. Anything else you want to let people know about Horsepower Heritage before we dive in? I want to go into the whole history of the company, but anything else they should know up top about you and the podcast?
Well, I think anyone who enjoys Bring a Trailer would enjoy my podcast because my lens is really turned on the history, right? That's why it's called Horsepower Heritage, of course. And I'm fascinated with cars, whether they are veteran cars from 1900 all the way up to today. So I've had the privilege of having guests and covering topics that run the gamut. I've had Kevin Zinger and Lucas Zinger on the show who are building this amazing hypercar down in Torrance, California. But I've also had a friend of mine who has been a Horseless Carriage Club member since 1956 on the show to talk about his 14 Silver Ghost.
Man, we need to talk about all that. I want to get into all of it, and I want to talk about all your favorite hosts or guests, excuse me. But before we do, I think we talk about you a little bit, the man behind the mic. You come from a car family?
No, I don't.
No kidding.
I don't come from a car family. But the guy who really got me interested in cars is my Uncle Dave. Behind you on the wall, there's a poster from the Bring a Trailer alumni gathering in 2023 at the Iola Car Show.
Yes.
In Iola, Wisconsin.
Have you been there before?
When I was 13, Uncle Dave took me to Iola. And that was my first exposure to antique cars. And in high school, my dream car was the 57 Chevy Bel Air.
Amazing.
Which at the time, they were kind of at the top of their valuation, right? And companies like Danchuk Manufacturing were reproducing all those hard to find bits for those cars. So the Tri-5 Chevys were a big deal.
And 57 specifically for you?
57, just the fins and the sail panels.
Yeah. Fuelie, non-fuelie? Did you not care about that?
Didn't matter.
Okay.
Didn't matter. Yeah. As long as it had a 283
yeah.
and a Power Glide, right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. Never got that car, but my tastes kind of evolved, of course. And then, a friend of mine introduced me to the BMW 2002.
Oh, we got that right up there too.
That's right. And the poster for that alumni gathering with the O2 on it, Randy and I did a live podcast.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that one. That's right. I remember that. That was at Motoring Club, right?
Motoring Club in LA, yeah. But the 2002 that became my dream car. And I got a 76 square taillight 2002, I think when I was a junior.
Okay. What was the first car? Was there a car before that, or was that your first car?
The first car was a Mazda 626 Coupe.
Oh, that's an interesting car.
82. I had it for 6 months, and it was a 5-speed.
Yeah.
Kind of a metallic medium blue.
And they were carbureted for a long time, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend or a friend of a girlfriend, I can't even remember, in high school who had one of those a little bit later. And I remember being shocked it was carbureted.
The Mazda 626 was kind of a dog, but it was in pretty good shape. It would make an amazing Radwood car today.
Totally. Well, and when was the last time you saw? I mean, never. They're
exactly.
Gone. They're gone.
They're totally gone. But I had it for about 6 months before I got this 2002. And, we're talking about the late 80s.
Yeah.
And it was basically a Mr. Magoo car to everyone else.
Yeah.
With that tall greenhouse.
Oh, so good looking.
Everyone else in the parking lot at high school had, 5-liter Mustang GTs.
Of course, yeah.
Blazers. There's a few Beetles here and there. There was a guy with a 350 SL.
No kidding.
Yeah. I used to sneak off campus in his trunk because, underclassmen weren't allowed off campus for lunch. So I would jump in the trunk and motor away.
What was the best car at high school? Do you remember? Or the one that all the car guys were envious of?
There weren't any standouts. I mean, I think those cars that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
There was a guy who chopped the top off of his Super Beetle
Whoa.
and just rolled around like that with a sharp edge along the windshield. It's kind of dangerous, but they would put like 15 people in that car on Friday nights
Amazing.
for football games and just
Amazing.
tool around the parking lot.
Were you an auto shop guy?
No, we didn't have auto shop.
Oh, what a bummer.
But I do remember taking a body working class at the community college later on.
Doing like Bondo and stuff, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, beating panels and doing
Wow.
Bondo. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was fun.
Did you ever do that more later in life, or was that your only experience with it?
I'm doing it now.
Kidding.
I have a 51 Series 1 Land Rover that's got a few dents here and there. So, working aluminum is a lot easier.
Totally.
And I'm kind of cleaning that up. That's going to be a mechanical restoration, but I'm going to leave the body pretty much as is. It's kind of a patina build.
Painted or unpainted?
It's got faded bronze green paintwork.
Okay.
I may touch it up here and there just because I don't like the bare aluminum.
Yes. Although you see it a fair amount that
You
people
do.
do that. And it's
You do.
probably because people spend so much time on the aluminum bodywork, they want to show it off, right?
Yeah, there was a trend for a while with Series Land Rover guys. Some would, I don't know if it could be a trend because it was pretty small niche of people that would polish the bodywork out.
Yes, right.
Doesn't look great on a Land Rover, in my opinion.
They also have such great colors in that era.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. And the original paint wears so nicely.
Agreed.
Yep. It usually doesn't crack or craze. It just kind of wears through.
And it almost changes tone.
Yeah. You asked about the cars I had early on.
Yeah.
That 2002 begat a 69 1600,
Oh, interesting.
which begat a
You
67.
went back. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm all about the round tail lights
Yeah.
on
Okay.
this
Oh,
car.
yeah. You want roundies. Yeah. Okay.
So after the 69 1600, I found in Hemmings Motor News a 67 1600 Ti.
Oh,
Euro model, dual side draft Solex carburetors.
I think we've only listed like 2 or 3 TIs ever. They don't come across.
They
very
don't.
often, Yeah.
There's just not that many in North
Yeah.
America. And I bought that car, flew out to Kentucky with the friend who turned me on to 2002s, and we drove it back to the West
No
Coast.
kidding.
It was a fantastic road trip. Blew 2 tires on the way
Amazing.
because the car was running the later steel wheels,
Wider.
a little bit wider.
Yeah.
The guy had put bigger meats on it, and the sidewall cut.
Everybody did that in the 80s and 90s. And now everyone wants to go back to the, to the stock setup.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you don't fold in that fender lip, you're going to cut your
Where-
sidewall.
Yeah, it's rubbing.
That was a fantastic road trip.
What route did you take? You go the southern route?
Straight across the 10.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From Lexington, Kentucky, all the way out.
Amazing.
Encountered massive torrential thunderstorms outside Oklahoma City. The big rigs were throwing 40-foot rooster tails of water at us. The wipers couldn't keep up.
That's a real test of a car.
And we were running on fumes mentally
Yeah,
at that
of
point,
course.
because we were trying to
You're
just
just
chew up the
cannonballing it. Yeah, totally.
Right. But what a fantastic trip.
How long did you keep that car?
I kept that car for easily 10 years,
Yeah.
maybe longer.
Yeah.
And it finally kind of was worn out. The engine was worn out. It was burning a whole lot of oil. I got a letter in the mail from the California Air Resources Board.
Uh-oh.
Somebody had reported me as a gross polluter.
No.
So traded that for my
Did you ever have the story of how it got here? That's a
a
interesting.
serviceman brought it
Yeah,
over.
of course. Bought it in
Yeah.
Germany.
Some,
and then brought,
some
yeah.
guy that was in the army brought it over.
Yep.
So that thing was just, it was worth nothing at the
Yeah.
time. This was 1999, 2000. And my mechanic, great mechanic, had a baby Benz, a 190E that was, wanted to get rid of it. I traded him straight across for the 190E. And that was my daily for like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And then I had to do a head gasket on that car, I think.
On the 190. Was it
Yeah.
a 4 or a 6 cylinder?
It was a 4, the 2.3. Had to do a head gasket on it. Did not have the proper tools to keep the timing chain from slipping. And it slipped a couple of teeth. And I didn't really know. And that's an interference.
I was going to
engine.
ask whether it was interference or not. Yeah.
I bent the valves on it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the end of that car. I'm usually not all thumbs under the hood.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good with the
I was
rigs,
going to ask
but-
about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that was a tough lesson. Yeah, so that's part of my old car history, but I also have been a Series Land Rover
Yeah,
guy
okay.
for about 30 years. I had a 64 109 pickup. I have a 109 station wagon right now, 1960, a 68 88-inch short wheelbase, Series 2, and then the 51 Series 1, which is my current project.
I mean, that's closer to an addiction, buddy.
I guess so. They have a way of multiplying, don't they?
I think probably
Yeah.
other Rover guys would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you miss any of those old cars, the TI? Or
I
any of
think
the old
about the
Rovers?
TI all the time. Yeah. I just told my wife like 2 days ago, I wish I still had that car.
Yeah.
I kind of know where it is.
I was going to ask because sometimes people do that, right? Try to find
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I kind of know where it is, but I also feel like you sort of can't go back.
No. And it might disappoint you if you,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
I've tried to chase nostalgia before, and then sometimes it ends up almost working against you. And you sound like more of a project guy than me, but I keep telling myself I'm not going to do another project, and then end up doing one. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I didn't want to take on another project, right? So I've really tried to refocus myself on chasing the cars I've always wanted and finding, this is advice I give to colleagues and other people all the time, and I don't always follow myself, but find the best one you can. And,
It's really true.
Do everything you can to not. Bruce Meyer said something about that. I wish I could remember the exact
He
phrase.
says,
pay once and what is it? What is the, I can't remember.
he says, buy the best and cry only
yes,
once.
correct. Right.
Yeah.
Which is such good advice and so hard to follow.
Well, it is when that desire outpaces your means, right?
Totally. Or you fall in love with something that you know you shouldn't, which
Yeah.
happens to me a lot. I don't know how you are with that.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you're already missing your NSX. You just sold it.
Oh yeah, I did. You noticed that, huh? Yes, I was thinking about it this morning as I was driving
Yeah.
to work. I was like, I wish I was in the NSX.
Yeah.
I do miss it. But that's a car I figured I can probably buy another one. And a couple of my other cars, the one I have parked downstairs, I'm probably never going to be able to buy another one. So got to hold on to those. But I do miss it.
Have you ever sold a car and stipulated first right of refusal if the guy wants to get rid of it?
Don't sell very much, Maurice.
Yeah.
I'm a buyer and not a seller. It's
Yeah.
very hard for me. In fact, that NSX, I had one of our power sellers sell it for me because part of it was I knew he would do a great presentation. He did better than I ever could. And he's a buddy, Matt Crandall, 911R. But also it was a way to commit. You know what I mean? Like you go and hand the guy the keys. And I did that around Christmas time. And so even though it took a month or two to get it live on BAT, I knew it was, you know what I mean? Like the mental break had already happened and I may never have done it. I'll show you later. I had a draft written for that car in the back end of our system to sell it like 6 years ago. So I've been agonizing for, most of my ownership over whether to sell it or not. So for me, it was almost kind of getting over that hurdle and handing off the key. What about you? Do you have that same problem? Are you more of an acquirer than a seller?
I'm definitely a buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a serial car monogamist. Is that even a thing?
No, I think it is. I
mean, even my dailies, my daily is a 535i to 2015. It's got 168,000 miles on it. My daily prior to that was a 2009 Mini Cooper S Clubman. Still have that car. It's got 158,000 on it.
Do you drive it or is it sitting like a
No,
talisman?
I drive it.
Okay,
I drive it. Yeah, I rotate. So yes, I'm definitely a buyer, not a seller.
Yeah. It's a real problem for me because I get nostalgic about everything before I've even let it go. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. The NSX, would you say you broke even on the whole thing? Did you make money? Did it end up costing you?
No, I made a lot of money on it.
Okay. I figured because
I owned it for a long time. Actually, it's interesting when I bought it. So I fell in love with those cars as a young mechanic in my 20s. I kind of grew up around European sports cars and liked a lot of the same stuff as you. My dad never owned Japanese cars. And so I worked at a shop that serviced Mercedes and BMW's German cars. But this one wealthy doctor, Dr. Anderson, rest in peace, had all of his Ferraris and Porsches worked on at our shop, but he just liked us. So he would have everything worked on. And he had bought a 91 NSX new. And he didn't drive it very much. It was black, and it had BBS two-piece wheels, which I looked for forever. They must have been custom fitment and never could find a set, never saw another NSX with them. And at our LA event this last weekend, there was a red NSX with those same wheels. I'm like, they did make them. I didn't imagine that. But driving that car for the first time, I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about when they talk about Honda quality, the way it's built. And I think he offered that car to my dad for like 20 grand. It had, I think, 20,000 miles on it. So I always thought of them as, relatively affordable. People weren't that interested in them, kind of weird. And then when I bought mine in 2017, the prices were going up and my wife thought I paid too much. And then, of course, they're one of the cars that have really suffered none of the downturn that some other cars have. They've just shot right up. Have you ever driven one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. I wish I had mine here so that you could drive it. They're incredible. There's nothing else quite like it. They're Really, really great.
Yeah, and they've really kind of been the standard bearer for the Japanese car scene.
Yeah.
That
and the Supra. Although, not to run down the Supra, but the NSX, there's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
All aluminum,
what makes it different behind the wheel?
It's like driving a mid-engine. If you like that era of Honda, which I do, it's, very simple, very well built, really low dash. There's really good vision out. It has an amazing view forward.
Which is a problem in most sports cars.
Totally. I think it's become a problem in almost all. It must be crash standards, right? But like sills and hoods and everything have gotten so high.
Right.
You mentioned the greenhouse and the O2. Like that's one of my favorite things, right? You miss that. Old Porsches, the same thing. There's such good vision all around you. And surprisingly, NSX has that. Plus it has the two fenders slope inward when you're looking out, which there's nothing quite like a good fender view when you're looking out the front of a car.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sure you've experienced that many times.
And I imagine that the NSX, when you just need to tootle around town, it's like driving an Accord.
100%.
But then when you really want to get into it,
it's not lightning quick by modern standards, but it's plenty. I mean, it's plenty fast.
Sure.
I had it at 140 a couple times and it's fine.
Very predictable.
Very predictable, super linear. It was, I don't think it's the first VTEC car, but it was the first VTEC, I think, sold in the US. But I own an S2000 and I have a Civic Si now, although a turbocharged one. I had a normally aspirated Civic Si earlier. And if you've ever driven one of those 4-cylinder VTECs, it doesn't have that on-cam surge like a lot of them.
It's linear.
It's very linear.
Yeah.
It pulls really linear. And I love high revving cars, so 8,000 RPM is wonderful. The shifter is wonderful. I bought it from the founder of Radwood, actually. Had a loud exhaust and big wheels and aftermarket suspension. And everything I did to soften it and put the little wheels back on, put the soft suspension, quiet exhaust, just made me love it all the more. Because what it is it's a Grand Tourer.
Yeah.
It's a super comfortable highway car.
Well, I'll take the opportunity if it ever comes up to drive one.
Yeah.
I'll let you know what my thoughts are.
Fantastic. What are some of the cars that are either on your list or that you've driven that really impressed you that come to mind?
Well, my list is totally unrealistic.
Okay, I want to hear it
like
anyways.
a 289 Cobra, right?
Fantastic. Narrow body, not flares for you, right?
Narrow body, yeah, that's the one. 289 Cobra, early 30s Packards.
Oh,
Early 30s
you're a pre-war
Packard
guy.
touring. I love pre-war cars, yeah. There was kind of a torpedo bodied 27 Packard touring that sold a few years ago on the live auction scene, and saw it at Pebble Beach last year. It was great to see it because it had been in long-term storage.
It was a coach-built car? It must have been if it was
It was a coach-built car. If I'm not mistaken, I think that car was built by Brunn, which was a rail car builder.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a Brunn. It might have been...
It was like a big, 7-passenger touring.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the other...
Dual cow?
No, it might have been a Bud. Anyway,
Bud,
it was...
Bud was a steel company, yeah.
Yeah, but they also built rail cars.
Yeah, they built an airplane, too.
Yeah. That's interesting, yeah.
The Bud Conestoga. It's
That's
a weird
right.
look. Look it up if you want to. It's a steel airplane.
I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
So, I run the gamut. Other cars on my list that are more realistic, probably, like an E9 Coupe.
Oh,
I've
great.
always admired them. I've had 2002s, which are very similar, but love the E9 Coupe.
Would you want a stock or would you want 5-speed and all the mods that people do to them?
No, I think I would prefer a stock configuration. If I was going to mod a BMW of that era, I would find a Bavaria or a 2800 CS and drop a modern BMW engine and transmission in it and do all the suspension tuning. The Bavaria was a very comfortable car, but just kind of heavy and underpowered. What else? There was just something else on my mind.
An E9 on Alpino wheels does look awfully good. I will say, with some dish on them.
Definitely. What else? You got me on the spot now.
Well, I can pivot because I wanted to ask you about motos too, because you specifically mentioned motorcycles as one of your interests. Were you ever a rider, or do you just like to talk to people who are motorcycle people?
No, I ride. I've got a 73 BMW R75/5.
Oh, great. One of the classics.
Fantastic bike. It's Avis Black, toaster tank. It's been hot rodded a little bit. It's actually a 900 now. And it's got a fantastic exhaust note. It's a little bit roarty, but not obnoxious. But, those bikes are really quiet. The stock silencers on them are very quiet. I love the sewing machine tick of the BMW Flat Twin. And, vintage bikes are my comfort zone. I would get in way too much trouble with a modern bike.
Totally. Have you mainly focused on BMWs, or are there other types of bikes you like? Part of the reason I'm asking is I'm very curious to hear, I don't think I've ever asked this on the podcast before, the difference between drive shaft driven motorcycles and chain driven motorcycles. And if you have experience with both, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, I've only ridden BMWs. I've had a couple of them. I would love an older British bike. Lately, I've been thinking about like a mid-50s Harley Bobber.
Oh, interesting.
Something custom.
Are those knucklehead still if they're in the 50s?
Knucklehead or panhead. I can't.
Flathead regardless.
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
Not overhead valve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
No.
that would be a different flavor. You know?
Totally. And they're really good looking.
They are.
I like Indians a lot too.
But, making it a bobber sort of pares it down to the bare essentials. Hardtail motorcycles are a different breed, right?
Uh-huh.
You got to be a hardy soul for those.
Yeah.
But actually, I've had Paul D'Orly on the
I was going to say,
on the
pick,
podcast.
Who are some of the moto people you've talked to?
So, Paul is the creator of the Vintagent, which is basically the whole world of vintage motorcycling. It's at vintagent.com if people want to look him up. But fantastic character. He's actually a San Francisco resident. So he's one of your neighbors.
We actually have a motorcycle shop right here. Sometimes it's a guest on the podcast.
I noticed that. Yeah, right next door.
Yeah, they've got amazing stuff in there.
So Paul's fascinating, learned a lot from him, but he's ridden anything and everything pre-war.
Yeah.
But for him, whatever it is, if it's on two wheels, he'll ride it.
Yeah.
He's interested in it. So learned a lot from Paul.
Other notable motorcycle guests that you've had?
One of the most interesting guys that I've spoken to about motorcycles is a guy called David Lancaster, who his background is in film and television production, but he's a Vincent enthusiast.
Oh, we love Vincent's.
So he made a documentary about Vincent motorcycles called Speed is Expensive, which it was and still is.
Yeah.
And so we talked all about Vincent's. That's a terrific episode. That's episode 64 of the podcast. It's been a while now. I try to keep the shows evergreen so that
Does he go deep on Vincent's? I need to listen to that one. My dad owned a couple of Vincent's, so I love him too.
goes deep on Vincent's, goes deep on Philip Vincent, who this guy was, what made him tick. Fascinating.
Yeah, see, I don't even quite have it's HRD and then it becomes Vincent. It's a little complicated. Vincent was the engineer, right, for HRD, because HRDs are kind of Vincent's, and sometimes the tanks say HRD and
Right.
Vincent on them.
Yeah, he basically acquired HRD, and then there was a period where they were labeled both
Yes,
HRD
that's
and
right.
Vincent,
Yeah.
and then finally just the Vincent.
Yeah, right. Oh God, I got to listen to that.
That's a
one. I love
fantastic episode. And then another guy I've had on the show who loves vintage, but also wants reliable and usable is a guy called Richard Worsham. And he's the founder of Janus Motorcycles.
that. Oh yeah,
Are you familiar?
Yeah, huh? Yes.
So Richard is like just a very interesting Midwestern guy who decided, I'm going to start a motorcycle company. We talked about what he does and the bikes, and he's got a very interesting clientele.
Are they essentially made per order? How does that work? We've had a few on the site.
So basically they have a given number of models, but there's a lot of customization that you can do.
If you're a buyer, you're shepherding your build through, kind of.
Yep, that's it. And so all of the bikes are basically hand built. And his philosophy on motorcycling is what he calls rambling.
Yeah.
Just no particular place to go.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hop on the bike, and wherever I find myself is where I need to be.
Which I love, man. They call that in aviation the $100 hamburger. It's probably a lot more now, but you got to find a place to fly your plane. So you fly it somewhere and have a hamburger at one of the airport restaurants.
Yeah, it's kind of the same zen of, zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance, or Blue Highways. If people remember William Least Heat Moon and his travels, it's that same ethos.
I love it. My dad is friends with a kind of well-known old motorcycle journalist, Clement Salvadori, who used to write for Ryder and Bike. He's written for everything, and he's ridden all around the world on various bikes. And he's got kind of that similar philosophy. It's about the people you meet, similar to the philosophy of Horsepower Heritage, right? Like it's the vehicle, be it a motorcycle or a car or a truck or whatever. The romance of it is the people you meet and the journeys you take and the stories that you pick up by getting in one of these, modes of transportation and getting out on the road, right? And that's a kind of a guiding philosophy for us at BAT too. I mean, it's fine if people want to look at their 0 mile GNX or whatever, but for the most part, we love to encourage people to get out and drive their cars, ride their bikes. That's why we have events, right? And alumni gatherings.
Right.
Come on out, use the thing.
I always have high regard for, especially when I speak to big collectors. And I've been fortunate enough to see some of the world's greatest collections, but they use their cars.
Yeah.
They do you no good sitting around.
Yeah. Leno, he rides everything. He
That's
drives
it.
everything. It's amazing.
That's right.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about some other notable guests and episodes. But before we do, I should have started by tell us about the origins of Horsepower Heritage. Were you always interested in either interviewing or writing, or how did it all come about, Maurice?
Well, I have a background in television production, but as far as the podcast is concerned, it started like all good ideas start, over cocktails.
Sure.
A group of car guys, we were sitting around having drinks, and one of them said,
How far back is this?
this is a little over 5 years ago
Okay.
now. One of my friends said, you know, we have all these great car chats. We should be recording this. We should be making a podcast because we're not the only ones who are interested in this stuff. And it wasn't on my radar at all, Alex, but something clicked in my brain. So that friend and I kind of got serious about it, started doing research, started buying equipment.
Mm-hmm.
We got as far as doing some test recording sessions. And
That's where we panicked our first time. I don't know if that happened to you.
well, it was going fine, except that my friend's business kind of took off.
Oh, okay.
And he had to bow out. He
Yeah.
said, man, I'm so sorry. I got you going in this direction. And I said, hey, it's okay. I was ready to do it. So I did it.
Yeah.
I just jumped in with both feet. It's been fantastic, Alex. I mean, I'm coming up on the 5th anniversary of this summer of this show, over 140 episodes. I don't know how many hours, many
It
hours.
ends up being you and I can commiserate on this. It ends up being a real commitment to do this stuff.
It is. I release bi-weekly. Initially, it was a weekly show, and it was kind of a treadmill.
Yes.
You know, I had to pare it back. There's
And
other.
you go long too on yours.
I go long. The average length at one point was 47 minutes. I don't know where it is right now, but I've gone as long as 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's hard
It
to stop, you know?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, even the guest isn't ready to call it quits.
100%.
But you asked about notable,
Yeah. And who were some of the early ones? What happened early on?
you know, actually early on, the show was mostly what I call storytelling episodes. I would pick a topic and just do the research and run with it. So episode 1 was called The Birth of the Automobile. And I talked about
Carl Benz and all that.
I talked about
patent wagon.
the patent motor car, right? I talked about that. I went even farther back than that. I went to Cugnot's tractor.
Yeah. Okay. So that's fascinating. People have told me, and I've seen some pictures, there were like steam powered, almost like tractor things that, you know, we always think
Yeah.
of the patent wagon being the first car, but that's actually not exactly true, right?
Well, there was a guy in France named Nicolas Cugnot, and he saw the potential of steam power for road vehicles. And essentially, he built an artillery tractor
Okay.
for Napoleon's army.
It's fascinating to me that it goes that far back. I mean, there were steam engines in the, late 1700s, mid 1700s.
Yeah. So Nicolas Cugnot developed this steam tractor for the French army. It was an artillery tractor, 1769.
Amazing.
And it is the most ungainly thing. The steering is through chains,
Sure.
just like almost like horses' reins. And the front wheel is the only wheel that's propelled, and it uses like a dog and paw ratchet system.
Sure.
The original is in a museum in Paris.
Oh, it's still around.
Yes.
That's amazing.
There's a reproduction down in Florida, I think in Tampa, and occasionally they
Beam it up.
They run it on the street
Yeah, I
occasionally.
love it.
So
I love it when people are obsessed with that old technology and they recreate it. There's a bunch of patent wagon replicas. I think we've sold them on the site. People build all kinds of those, right?
oh yeah, I've got a friend who has one, and it's marvelous.
Have you ridden in it?
I haven't ridden in it yet because it's a display piece for him.
Yeah.
But he could run it if he wanted. So I started out with the storytelling episodes. So things like The Birth of the Motor Car. I did an episode all about Donald Haley.
Great.
I did an episode called How They Saved BMW, about Herbert Quandt and how he took BMW from certain disaster, got it going again with the Neue Klasse cars. I did an episode about the Lamborghini from the Italian Job.
Oh, interesting.
and what became of it.
That specific chassis.
Exactly. Because that car was long sought after, but no one knew where it went. And a car dealer in Paris found it in the parking garage.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that car still exists. I did an episode called Henry Ford's Fight about Henry Ford battling against the patent process for the automobile and, how you had to be licensed in the US. So all sorts of stuff. But I've also had great guests like,
Yeah. Who are some of the notable ones?
I mean, guys like Donald Osborne.
Oh, yeah.
Donald's wonderful. So
Great talker. You always want a good talker if you can get him on, right? He's a good talker.
Absolutely. So knowledgeable. John Bothwell from Song.
Yep.
Patrick Long.
Oh, Patrick Long. He was at our event this weekend.
Yeah, great guy.
I was hoping I was going to see you there, Maurice.
I know I couldn't make it and it was killing me.
We were so far out there. It was a huge one. You would have loved it.
Yeah.
Man.
Bruce Meyer's been on the show.
He's the man.
One of the highlights, though, was a couple of years ago at the Quail during Monterey Car Week. I hosted the fireside chat on the main stage in front of the crowd. And the guest was none other than Emerson Fittipaldi.
Amazing.
That was incredible. I mean, I had 30 minutes with him in the green room prior to going on. And I said, Emma, do you mind? Could we sit down? And I just want to go over a few notes.
Mm-hmm.
And within 10 minutes, it was like we were old buddies.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that warm and gracious. So that was wonderful.
That's got to be one of the highlights, man.
It was terrific. And then, I mentioned earlier that Randy and I had done that podcast at the alumni
I was going to ask
gathering.
how often you do them live.
just
That
really
was a
fun.
live one. I sat and watched that from the crowd.
From time to time, I do live stuff. I do also private events live that don't necessarily become podcast episodes, but I really enjoy hosting. And there's nothing like a live audience.
Yeah,
That's
agreed.
fantastic. So
Agreed. Where would you recommend if somebody was interested in jumping in? What's like a good kind of entree into your podcast? Where's a good place to start?
Well, I'll give you a couple recommendations.
Yeah, please.
If you're interested in like a storytelling episode, one of my favorites that I've ever done and kind of proud of is an episode called Racing's Darkest Day, which is about the 1955 Le Mans disaster.
Peter
And
LeVay.
yes, exactly. And the story is fascinating.
I'm surprised by how many, I bring that one up, a fair amount just in conversation. Even a lot of my colleagues who know a lot about cars don't necessarily know the details of that and all the ramifications of it.
Well, it changed so much in
sure did.
motorsport. Mercedes basically didn't race.
Pulled out. Yeah.
Except for rallying, they didn't race for many years.
Mhm.
It was the beginning of the end for Mike Hawthorne, whose life was never the same. It shattered the life of Lance Macklin, who was hit by Pierre Leveg's Mercedes. He was never the same. So there were deep, deep consequences to that whole thing. And of course, over 80 people were killed in the crowd.
Still the deadliest racing accident of all time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a great one for people to check out. Another one that I really enjoyed producing was a 2-part episode called The Brilliance of Bentley with an author called Peter Grimsdale, an Englishman who has a television production background and is an author. He's primarily an author of fiction, but he became fascinated by the story of W.O. Bentley and how he created these cars, but particularly Bentley at Le Mans.
Yeah, okay. Does he cover the Bentley boys too, Wolf Bernardo and all that? Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, okay.
All of it.
Such a great era.
We talk about Bentley's early life. He went to the north of England to apprentice in the locomotive sheds. But then he got interested in motorbikes and realized, trains and locomotives are kind of on the way out, and the motor car and the motorcycle are going to be the future.
Yeah.
He went to war. In the Great War, he realized that the engines on the English planes were seizing in midair and killing a lot of flyers. He developed a lightweight aluminum piston that served as a heat sink and made the engines more reliable. And I think it's confirmed, but at least legend has it that the plane that shot down Baron von Richthofen was powered by a Bentley engine.
Oh, interesting. Built by Bentley.
Designed by Bentley.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so, Peter Grimsdale, The Brilliance of Bentley, that was a wonderful episode.
Those sound like great places to start.
Yeah. really love those episodes. I think those are excellent places to go.
So you and I discussed, when you were generous enough to allow me on your podcast, we talked about the 1 year garage game that we play here on BAT. And you mentioned you'd like to do it. And we've never done it with two people. And this would be your first time playing. So we came up with a variation on it. And so we want to kind of end the episode with doing that. But before we dive into that, and I remind folks how that works, and we'll have some fun debating how we're going to do the variation of it, I wanted to give you an opportunity, Maurice, just one last time to let folks know about anything you got coming up or anything else that you might want to share with folks that they should know about you or Horsepower Heritage.
Well, thanks, Alex. And I just think that Bring a Trailer users are the audience that I cater to.
Because the breadth, I think, in large part, right?
Yeah.
You cover everything. Yeah.
And, BAT users are so knowledgeable. And I really like to get into the minutia. I do a lot of research. I'm fascinated by this stuff. It energizes me to talk about all of it.
Same.
And we nerd out on the show. So just like the commenters on Bring a Trailer, it can be pretty wacky. Just Google Horsepower Heritage and you can find me on all sorts of platforms. Instagram, I've got a YouTube channel, lots of videos there, not just podcast episodes, but, fixing my own Ford Model A Roadster, stuff like that. So the podcast, YouTube, and Instagram is where to find me.
Killer. And we'll put links up for all that stuff too.
Fantastic.
You ready to nerd out on some Chevys?
Am I ready? Are you kidding?
Okay, good. All right. How much prep did you do? You're probably going to blow me out of the water, Maurice.
I did quite a bit of prep.
Okay.
But again, it's just like having a car conversation with a friend. Like I couldn't stop.
I know. It really, I prepped last night and then I was thinking about it as I was falling asleep. And then this morning while I was getting my kids ready, I was thinking about it. And then I was looking at more cars. And then as I told you when you came in, I was like, I need to prep more. And I have not had the opportunity to do that, but that's okay. I think because of the way we're going to tweak this, we're going to probably not have too much overlap, but I want to clear up a few ground rules with you first.
Okay.
So first off, for folks who've never heard us play this game before, typically we pick 1 year and then pick from 5 different categories: a sports car, a daily driver, a family hauler, a truck 4x4, and a wild card from that year. We usually play with 3 or 4 people and there's no overlap. So the order matters. Since it's just the 2 of us, we're going to try a slight variation. I've wanted to try this for a long time anyway, so I'm excited to do it with you, Maurice. We're going to try to do a decade, 1960s, but one manufacturer only. So same categories, but you've got to pull it just from one manufacturer. We're going to do Chevrolet. We talked about some other ones. We talked about BMW in the 90s. I think there's only the X5 for trucks in the 90s. So we decided Chevy because they make a bunch of stuff. A couple questions for you, and we can decide whatever we want because we're making the rules here, Maurice. But there's 3 different Corvette generations in the 60s, right? There's C1s, 2s, and 3s. My inclination would be each one of us could have a Corvette in theory, as long as it's not the same generation. How do you feel about that?
Oh, totally fine with that.
Okay. Because there's also multiple El Camino generations. There's multiple, lots of cars have different iterations. So I was thinking there can be overlap as long as it's not the same generation. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. And by the way, I went into this with the game plan of the unexpected, and you probably did too.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is going to be really interesting to see where we both end up.
I like litigating stuff while it's coming up, so that's part of the fun. Here's a one for you. I have a couple of these that we can kind of get to if they come up. Is the Corvair a sports car?
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Oh, all right, great. We're going to do it one category at a time. All right, let's dive in then, man. I'm excited about this. You got me all jazzed up. You're the guest. You go first. You pick the category, and then we'll go for it. So you get first overall pick.
All right, well, I got to start with sports car.
Okay, great. All right, this is what I was hoping for. This is top of my list, too. Just very quickly, did you use... So just to warn you, a lot of my picks are going to be straight up specific cars from BAT. If you've heard me do this before, I do this a lot. Definitely don't have to do that at all. But to warn you, I am going to have specific lot numbers for some of mine.
Okay. Well, Alex, I have to tell you that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 15 tabs open on Bring a Trailer right now. So I'm right there with you. Okay.
Great.
Good.
All right. Sports car.
All right. My pick for sports car, the 1966 Corvair Yenko Stinger Stage 2.
Okay. That definitely counts.
In white with blue racing stripes. By the way, for all of my picks, I've specified exterior and interior colors. Okay, good.
Spec is vital as far as I'm concerned, especially with, I think, Chevys in the 60s, because like that's what people who
Yes.
love those. That's like what it's all about. Is it AC or no? All that stuff
Totally.
matters. Yeah.
All right. So
Are you a Corvair guy?
I am not a Corvair
Oh,
guy, but
interesting.
you have to appreciate the Corvair for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was, Ed Cole saw what the Europeans were doing, and he's like, we need a small car. We need an
100%.
economy car.
Rear engine.
Rear engine. He loved the Volkswagen. He saw how well the Beetle was selling. So, that's the genesis of the Corvair in 1960 was the first model year, of course. But the 66 was the second gen, right?
Which fixed the swing axles, right? Has
Right.
W joints on it and everything.
Right.
And was the car, I don't know about you, but when I grew up, I always preferred this. I like the looks of it better, the second gen. Do you have a preference at this stage? Now I kind of like both equally, but
I kind of like both.
Yeah.
And it all depends on the spec and the body style.
totally.
I mean, when I say body style, I mean 2-door, 4-door,
Yep.
convertible. But so Don Yanko was a Pennsylvania Chevy dealer, and he was a racer, right?
Yep.
And the Yanko Stinger was basically the Pennsylvania Porsche, if you will. I mean, 160 cubic inch flat six, 190 horsepower, Saginaw 4-speed.
So good.
Don Yanko was like,
Always great paint schemes too, whatever
Yes.
car he was modifying.
so the first 100, I think, were all white with blue racing stripes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. But
On the Yanko Corvairs.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes. But yeah, that's my pick. I mean,
It's a fantastic one. Didn't even cross my radar. I love it when somebody, because usually we do these and it's like everyone's kind of swimming in the same pool. I didn't even think about that one and I'm upset at myself, and it's also a freaking great pick.
thanks. All right, what do you got for me?
Okay, I have a very specific car. I was a little worried you might take a Vet, so I have a specific one. So this, occasionally I talk about cars that I wish I'd bought that were on the site, and it's definitely in my top 10, if not my top 5, and it's a little weird. So I'm going C1 Corvette,
Oh,
62. This is lot number 14,097, 14097. It's a 62, so final year of the C1, black, Thule 4-speed, 360 horse. So it's as much performance as you could ever get in a C1. And this car has every freaking performance option. It has a 411 posi rear end, heavy duty rear brakes. The brakes, they're fin drums with air cool fans in them. It has a Sebring suspension package, which has 2 front sway bars. It has these really weird fiberglass, I think they call them elephant's ears. They're like brake ducts. They're in the trunk.
Yep.
Maybe you know more about these cars than I do, but this is one of those cars that it didn't sell, unfortunately. It bid to only 75 grand. And it's just one of the cars that I think about all the time. And I love C2s and C3s also, but this from the 60s is the Corvette I want the most. This specific chassis number.
I remember this auction well.
You remembered this auction?
I probably still have a little drool on my keyboard. Yeah, I mean, all black and black, just so evil,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sinister. I love it.
So that's my sports car. Man, I think about that car a lot. All right. You
It's
take
a
us to the next
fantastic car.
place, Maurice.
Okay, all right. I'm leading the way here. All right. Let's just go the opposite direction with truck and 4x4.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm excited to hear what you pick here.
Okay.
So many good options.
So because I went first and I picked the next category, I want to hear your pick first.
Oh, okay, good. I don't think there's going to be any conflict here because I've gone a little outside the box
Oh,
on truck 4x4.
okay.
So this may also need a ruling from you. I think this counts. Is an El Camino a truck?
Not only is it a truck, but I had an El Camino selected too.
Gosh.
So, no, that's okay.
Okay.
I got a good backup. So yeah.
Okay. So I've chosen another specific car, a weird one. So second gen El Caminos are like my favorite, 64 to 68, 67. What's the?
I think 67.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a 65 and it's a really weird spec. L79, 350, 4-speed. I've always had a soft spot for El Caminos. I don't know why exactly. I've never driven one. I like the big late ones. I like the funky 80s ones when they had the kind of Camaro front end on them. I like the early finned ones, but the second gen is my favorite. And so I went pouring over BAT last night, and this specific one, it's a 327 with 350 horse. So it's a high spec
Right.
327 with a 4-speed, lot number 143608. So a much more recent auction.
Is it a 4-speed?
It's a 4-speed.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
look at this thing. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Come on with the tack down here under the dash.
Love it.
We'll link to this car,
Exactly
too.
the wrong place for it, but that's okay.
Totally. But anyway, I mean, what a car. I mean, that's like your sports truck right there.
Definitely. I love it.
I'm sorry I stole from you, though.
No, it's okay.
I mean, there's so many good Chevy trucks in the 60s.
I also picked an El Camino, but I picked a 1960 in Cascade Green and Jade Green, a lovely two-tone, one light, one a little bit darker, the Jade Green being kind of light on the roof. 335 horsepower, 348 cubic inch, special super turbo thrust V8 with tri-power. You could get tri-power in this car.
That's the original big block, right? Isn't that the original?
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
yeah.
And 2-speed power glide.
Man,
Yeah. I don't want a manual in this one. I
Yeah.
want to cruise with the auto.
you smoke the tires, no problem, no matter what.
Absolutely. And yes, El Caminos are trucks.
Yeah.
If I can
100% they
if
are.
I can haul lumber in it, if I can put a pack of dogs in the back, if I can shovel manure into it, it's a truck.
Honestly, it's probably more functional than some of these unibody modern trucks that have the little tiny 4-foot beds on them, right? Like,
It's got a spacious bed.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Absolutely. And then they dropped the El Camino in
A couple of years, it's gone, right?
Yeah,
and then it comes back in the body style that I like so
right,
much. Yeah.
right. So
But that first one is epic and has almost a little bit of like 50s hangover, right? It's like kind of the end of that 50s, which I also love so much. I love late 50s styling so much. And especially when it carries over into the early 60s. So the 61 Chrysler 300G is my favorite of all the letter cars. So it's a 60s car, but it's still got the big fins on it. You know what I mean?
see, like 59 and 60 Cadillac. I prefer the 60.
I do too. I feel the exact same way. And I'm not trying to run down the 59, which
Right.
I also love, but it's almost become cliche, right? So this
Right.
and the 60 is so much cleaner. I love it.
It's all about the fins on that car.
Agreed.
And I just think I like the understated 60.
Great.
Yeah.
Great pick, dude. Oh man, you're doing great. Now I'm like slightly intimidated. All right, where are you going next? What category?
Oh, I get to pick again?
yeah.
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
man.
All right. Let's see here. Let's go family hauler.
Oh, good. Okay. I've got my
This
cues
is
up
going to be
already.
fun
Okay.
because when you're a car guy, but you have that compromise that
Mhm.
you need to haul the wife and kids and the
Mhm.
dog and who knows what else, maybe grandma rolled up
Yep.
in a area rug on the roof.
I know where you're going.
So my pick for family hauler is the 1965 Chevelle Malibu 4-door station wagon
Fantastic.
in willow green polymetallic with an analogous interior.
Oh, man.
Okay. And I got to go big on this.
I was going to say,
So
what's your powertrain combo?
L79 Turbofire 327, 350 horsepower, and a 4-speed.
Wow. That's
And
like similar to the powertrain in my El Camino.
Exactly. So, I mean, if I got to drive a wagon, I want to shift.
Yeah, totally. But that's also a really sick car and was definitely on my list too. I actually like that car in almost every body style it comes in, but the wagon is particularly fantastic.
Yeah. I just love it. Now, there's a technicality here because the L79, like, I think you could only get it in the Corvette that year.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what? Actually,
like, yeah.
I'm mistaken. So, no, it was the L84 you could only get
okay, gotcha.
because it had solid lifters
Yes, right.
versus the hydraulic. So,
Right.
the L79 was available.
You're pulling out all the L codes, Maurice. I can't do that.
Oh,
It's so hard for me to keep up on all that.
So much research into the RPO, the
Yeah.
regular production order,
Totally.
Chevrolet nomenclature, and versus the COPO, the
Oh, yes,
central office
absolutely.
production order.
Absolutely.
You could just spend
I mean, we try to decode those as much as we can because,
Right.
again, like we were talking about up top, collectors care so much about each one of those
They do.
codes, right?
They do. It's important.
Okay, so you didn't steal mine. Not that I was that worried
Okay,
about
good.
it. And I'm really glad you took a second generation Corvair because for Family Hauler, I'm going to take a first generation Corvair wagon.
Wow.
And this is another car that I have thought about a lot. So this was in Mike Malamute's collection. He listed it twice on the site. It's a silver over red Monza Corvair wagon 4-speed. And it's got that big, beautiful swan neck shifter that kind of comes way out
Oh,
from under
yeah.
the, and it's red interior. And I think it only bid to like 10 grand. And I just love the way these look. And the windows get wider as they go back. Oh man, I love these cars. This is, like I said, when I was a kid, it was that second generation Corvair. That was the only one I thought was good looking. That's all I cared about. And these older first generation cars with white walls, they've really grown on me. My wife was a district attorney up in rural Northern California. And one of the secretaries daily drove a teal Corvair sedan. That was her daily driver, teal on teal, Power Glide. And I just loved that as a daily driver. And it really helped me kind of fall in love with these. And I think the wagons are great looking. I love the coupes. Randy's dad had a turbo Monza coupe, which is an awesome car too. But anyway, that's my pick for family hauler.
Now this car, what's the lot number on that?
That is lot number, I wrote it down somewhere. It is lot number 22167.
Now, does that have the optional 95 horsepower engine? Because the stock,
I think the Monza had a little more power, didn't it?
yeah, the standard Corvair came with an 80 horsepower engine, but I think mid 1960, you could order the performance package, which was a 95 horse. But you could only get it.
It's not going to be a speed demon like your
Right.
family hauler, no matter what. Unfortunately, Maurice, let's see if we said it here. It was on the site twice.
Yep.
You're right.
That's perfect. I was curious if you were going to pick a Greenbrier.
Oh, I do love those a lot. I really like them a lot. Gosh, now that makes me think for truck, I should have picked what do they call it? Ramp side?
Ramp
The one
side,
with the,
yeah.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Well, I was thinking about
You were thinking about that.
the Greenbrier van for the family hauler, but I don't know. I don't know if I would want to do a cross-country road trip in that thing.
Totally. You picked the right
So-
you picked the right thing because you're going to be hauling ass, man.
Very good. By the way, this Monza wagon that you picked, that's like one of several Corvairs that Mike Malamut has had on the site, and
Yeah.
they've all been fantastic.
Yes. He has such
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to the museum before?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
dude.
I know it's crazy that I haven't been there yet. It's one of those things.
I was actually surprised. So we went and interviewed Matt Farah, and he was generous to let us come into his collector car facility. And he had never been to Malamut's museum. I kept talking to kind of all these notable LA folks, and it was surprising how many people. I don't know if it's that Mike doesn't open it up very much, but I'll tell you, man. So I was up at Rob Dietz' Wobb's
Sure.
facility at the other end of the block for most of our event. But then at the end, I was like, I'd never seen it either. I was like, I got to get down and see Malamut's. And there were so many people in there. It was hard to move through. It was jam packed. So the Los Angelinos really wanted to come out and see it.
I got to get over there.
You
You
do.
know, you could spend all year doing a different car thing in LA and really not
Totally.
run out of stuff.
Totally.
So,
Totally. All right. You want to do daily driver?
daily driver.
Okay.
it
I'm
is.
excited to hear what you got.
All right, my friend. I'm really torn because I'll just tell you, I picked 3 cars for every category because
Uh-huh,
I
that's
really
smart.
wanted to cover my bets.
Very smart.
Right.
It's very smart.
My third pick for this. Well, no, I'm not. That's not fair because I'll just go with
Always
one.
follow your heart.
Right. Right.
Although
Okay.
I lose on Instagram every time we do this, so maybe that's not good advice.
All right. So I picked 3 for every category just to cover my bets. So my pick for daily driver is a 1964 Chevy 2 Nova Super Sport Coupe in satin silver poly metallic with a red interior and RPO 703, the L77 283 cubic inch V8, 220 horses, and a 4-speed.
Amazing. A little ripper of a motor.
A little ripper.
Yeah. I
The-
love 283s, by the way.
Yeah, they're terrific. And those Novas, I just think they're so handsome.
Yes.
You know?
I actually think it's Randy's Falcon Sprint 63.5 is like
Yes.
kind of in that same neighborhood of looks. And I completely agree with you. It was on my list for daily driver too. They're so good looking and
So-
light. And like, you know what I mean? Like it was a classic dragster.
Light and the size.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, great city car in the early 60s, you know?
And just so
Easy to park.
simple and clean. That mid 60s styling of a lot of the cars that we're talking about here, you and I are clearly gravitating towards that. It
Yeah.
is, I love 50s styling too, but that kind of palette cleanser of the mid 60s is also delightful. I just love everything from this era pretty much.
You know, for the daily driver category, one of the things that I was thinking about is I was imagining, because you guys are in San Francisco, I was imagining myself daily driving here in the city
Uh-huh.
with the hills and the tight parking and all of that.
Yep.
And what would be a great pick. And so that was my choice.
Man, I should have picked an automatic. I didn't, but I'm going to stick with my heart here, which is one of my favorite cars from the 60s, which is the original Camaro.
Yes.
67. So I've chosen an RSSS 4-speed. This one was offered by Bullet Motorsports, or sold by Bullet Motorsports, I should say, one of our local partners. And this one is in butternut yellow. It has the nose stripe, black nose stripe, which I think is great, black vinyl roof. I think as much as I love the styling of Mustangs, the original Camaro might be my favorite looking car from the 60s. It's so pretty and it's so simple. I just love them, man.
Not just your favorite muscle car, but your favorite.
Just look in terms of look. I think I
Right.
probably would own. I love Fords and driving Mustangs so much. I think that's probably what I would own personally. But I mean, in profile, it's one of the prettiest cars in my opinion. I love the rally slotted mag wheels. That's one of my
Definitely.
favorite wheels. I actually think I've picked a 67, 68 Camaro as a daily before in one of these because whichever year we did 67, I think, because I love them so much. So I'm repeating myself here a little bit. You can see I'm like waxing rhapsodic, but I just love them. I would be happy walking up to that car every day. I wanted something too that was kind of in that 60s beige color. I love all the 60s beiges. And I think that I would like this car. You spoke about driving in the city. I think this car would be fun, kind of beat up, sitting in the city, sitting outside. I think it would still be, doing burnouts wherever. I don't know. Anyway, I love this car.
It would be a great car for you if you were a private detective and to get into adventures
Totally.
with.
I'm trying not to say the word bullet, but yeah, totally. Right.
I was thinking more Rockford Files,
Oh,
but
totally Rockford Files. Yeah. Anyway, there's my thing. Oh, and there's your GM build sheet on it. We'll
There you
link to
go.
that one too. That is lot number 93785.
and I just got to say that color, butternut yellow, which is really kind of just a cream.
Yeah.
It's a perfect choice for that car. You don't need to be flashy.
No. I completely agree. And this has got flash in different areas.
Yes,
The nose stripe, the red line tires, all that kind of stuff.
definitely.
All right, buddy. Wild card. You ready?
Okay, wild card.
This is always where you really learn about a person.
We've come around the horn. So this is our last category.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to tell you the specific reason I picked this car.
Great.
It's not because it's a cool car. It is, but there's more to it than that. So my pick for wild card is a 1961 Impala SS 409 bubble top
So
sport
sick.
coupe
So good.
in tuxedo black with a green interior
Ooh,
and a Muncie 4-speed.
man.
409. She's real fine, my
Yeah.
409.
Which
right?
is or is not related. It's not related to is that a different block than the 396, 348 block?
No, it's the same block.
Okay.
Yeah. 360 horsepower, 4-barrel.
Single 4-barrel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were only 142 built in 1961.
production.
So it's a rare car.
And I don't think I've ever seen one in that color combo before, black green.
No, that's a kind of an unusual
Yeah.
combo.
A lot of them are red and white, I feel like. Isn't that right?
Red and
Yeah.
white, black and red interior. Now that is a cool car. I don't care what you say. It's a
Yes.
cool car no matter what. But the reason I picked it is because of Dan Gurney.
Oh, what's the Gurney connection?
Dan Gurney bought one of these in 1961 and took it to England to race. And he raced it.
He raced an Impala?
Yes. Yes.
What? In
Yes.
touring car?
And he lost a wheel during the race and he was out. But I've been fortunate enough to ride in Dan Gurney's Impala.
No kidding.
Justin Gurney was on the show a few months ago. And, Justin and I have kind of become pals. And I've ridden in his car.
So it was his dad's own car?
Yeah.
And then they kept it.
Well, they didn't keep it.
Oh.
It went through a succession of owners. It was in the UK for many years. It ended up in Australia. And then recently, Justin
Found it.
acquired the car.
No kidding.
And it's back in the fold.
Did it get raced by other people or was it his dad the only one who raced it?
I wish I could remember that it had any other race history. I don't think it did.
But he bought it to race it specifically?
Well, he's going to be running it in vintage events.
Oh, cool.
I don't think they're really going to go racing in it.
Yeah, okay.
But it'll be at Laguna Seca for Monterey Car Week this
Amazing.
year. It's a beautiful metallic blue, a dark metallic blue.
How far does the racing prep go? Is it gutted interior or does it still have an interior?
No, it's got a full interior
Okay.
in it. I think the interior was saved. The rest of the car had been repainted and the car has gone through a succession of owners. So it's had work done here and there, but it's done properly now. And anyway, the car's back in the Gurney family. I was able to ride in it recently and it was so exciting. I mean, even at a low speed, he didn't really get his foot in it, but man, was it fun. And Dan's got a special place in my heart.
Me too.
and-
He's my
you know.
favorite. He's my favorite
So,
driver.
and Justin is such a terrific guy. So anyway, that's why I picked that car.
That's a great pick. That actually would have been a great pick for a lot of categories. That's an amazing one. It was definitely on my list for daily drivers. Well, the reason I wanted to know whether we could have multiple generations of the same car, which we've done two times and we're about to do 3 times, is because I wanted a Corvette for my wild card. So initially I was going to go Grand Sport, which would be like Mac Daddy. But then I started looking around BAT and I had forgotten about this other car that we listed. So this is a 64 C2 Corvette Fuelie, big tank option, was raced SCCA new. It's red with white steel wheels, which is just about my favorite look of all time. But a C2 Corvette race car, but kind of a little bit. So I love Dan Gurney. That era of sportsman drivers buying a car off the showroom floor. And this car, like Dan Gurney's, it has an interior in it, but then taking it racing, and you could win races in a car that was a lightly modified street car, especially in SoCal, is just something that's an era and a time period that is so romantic to me. So instead of going Grand Sport, which was, a crazy race car that Zora Arkus Duntov was like secretly developing, I've decided to go for this car that was optioned clearly to be a race car and was raced SCCA new, but is also still a little bit streety, right? It's a Fuelie 4-speed with the extra big tank. It was definitely spec'd to be a race car.
That big tank was option N03.
Oh, you know that even.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Because they knew people
There
wanted
was
to
a
go
big enough
road
deal
racing.
that we put it in the thing, right? It's a rare option to have on the factory. Anyway, I can imagine myself being in this, going to Willow Springs in the 60s and then driving it to work, right? But it's also your race car. I'd love it.
Now, is that technically a Z06?
It's not a Z06, but I think they had a lot of these same options, right? It
Right,
had
right.
a lot of the same stuff. Wish I could tell you what.
Oh, yeah,
The
'cause this is a
Z06.
64. Oh, yeah.
The Z06s are 65. Are they a
No,
little bit
I
later?
think the first
There's only like
Z06,
50 of them or something. right?
199 and
Oh,
63.
more than I thought. Okay.
So,
they're splits.
yeah,
split windows.
they
Okay, I
made
didn't
them in
know
a
that.
split, but yeah. No, it's a brilliant car.
It's great, right? And
Yeah.
that is lot number. Let me get the lot number. Oh, it's lot 71,000 even. Whoever was scheduling our cars knew that was a good car too.
And it unfortunately did not sell.
No, but look at what it bid to, 195.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for playing with me, Maurice. That's fun, right?
This was super fun, Alex. And like I said, I just couldn't stop doing the research, and it was tough.
By the way, you're going to find yourself thinking and second guessing yourself later. That's like part of it.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the fun, right?
Yeah, indeed. Well, thanks for doing all this, man. And thanks for flying up here. As we started, I'll end with again, there's nothing like doing it in person. It's way better.
Absolutely.
So thanks for coming up. We're going to go have some lunch. Any parting shots from you?
I just have to say it's great to finally be at Bring a Trailer Global headquarters.
Here you are.
Yeah. And on my way in, I had a ticket for the corporate tour, but your tour guide told me the tram was broken.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
No, but seriously, man, I just really appreciate you having me on. And I'm hungry. Let's eat.
Yeah. What a pleasure, Maurice. Thanks for being here. And thanks to all of you for listening. As always, please send questions, concerns, feedback to podcast@bringatrailer.com, and we'll catch you next time.